Okay, so it's on air. So welcome everyone to the first episode of Beyond Business interview series, Living the Rich Life with Elise, and that's me. And this is the first time I'm hosting this interview series with six-figure women entrepreneurs. This is a passion of mine because I empower women's and some smart men's financial freedom through entrepreneurship, because that's when one truly learns how to make money, and that's what financial freedom really means. So today I'm really happy and honored to have a very special guest. Her name is Jia Ni. She's originally from Malaysia, but she's now residing in Australia. I know you gave me this entire bio, but I'm just gonna do it,
Sure.
And she's now residing in Australia. Just completed her university while building her international business. And it's such an honor to be her friend, because at the age of 21, what now, you're 22 or still 21?
At 22 now.
22, and she, at the age of 22, I don't know what I was doing. I was drinking, partying, drinking fish, and just, I guess if I had started then, I would be a millionaire by now, but obviously, not. So she has taught me a lot of wonderful stuff. So she's now a transformational and success coach to other women who desires to fulfill their purpose, living their vision, as at the same time build a freedom-based business. That's what we're all about, and that's why we are able to have this conversation. She's in Australia, I'm in Singapore right now, and it's such an you got to give thanks to the technology, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Why don't you tell us more about yourself by yourself instead of me just introducing you? And then we can get started with
Cool. Well, thank you. I mean, that was a really spot-on introduction, and it was, really beautiful. So thank you for that. As Elise said, I did start my business 3 years ago when I was 19. And at that time, I was still in university. I didn't really know what I wanted to do once I got out, but I did know that I really desired to work for myself, and I didn't really see myself being employed for the long term. I think you talk about this, but I kind of found myself really unemployable, and and it just didn't really suit my value system of freedom and being able to travel whenever I wanted and work from whenever I desire and have my own hours. So because of that was a big why for me, and I did that, and probably for a lot of your viewers as well, whether they're moms or they want to have their own freedom and their own their say around how they can kind of design their life, and that's kind of why I started my business. And I was still at university, and that gave me some time to just figure things out, to get my feet wet. And right now I support other women entrepreneurs and new coaches or new aspiring coaches to also build really successful businesses according to their desires, so that they can live their vision and have the life that they dream of.
That's great. So I just wanted to ask, what happened? Did something happen at the age of 19, and then therefore you made that decision to build your business? Because we go through decision making, not because when things were going right. We make drastic decisions when shit hits the fan, right? And then you make that drastic decision, hey, education. Yeah. But what made you decide at the age of 19? Because the traditional route is go to school and then complete high school or secondary school, then go to a poly or junior college, and then you go, university and then master degree and sort of thing. So, but what made you decide in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of your college education, that hey, this is something that I want to do, and why?
Yeah. Well. Okay. Yeah, great questions, and you're spot on again, because shit did hit the fan when I was 18, 19, and at first I was on this really stable career path, and I had a really bright future. I had the option of being a doctor or a vet doctor, like an animal doctor, and I chose to be an animal doctor because I love animals, and my parents were like, yeah, as long as you're a doctor, that's great. So 2 years into that, I didn't like it. I was really depressed. I didn't feel like that was what I was passionate about. I was really a pain to be around. I was always, moping or whining, and I just wasn't happy, and just didn't feel like myself. And so I decided 2 years into that 6 year, degree, that I would quit, and I would, do something else. And that was quite a low point in my life, if not, like the lowest point, because I always felt like, great, since I was 6 or 7 years old, I always knew that I wanted to work with, I loved animals. That was definitely for sure, and I still do love animals, and that's why I kind of had a focus, like that was my purpose, that was the vision. And when I was 18 and that no longer was my vision, I just kind of, everything just crumbled apart, everything fell apart, and I just didn't know what to do with my life anymore. So then I just kind of chose whatever was, I was mildly passionate about, which was health and wellness and nutrition. And so my degree is in nutrition. And at that time, I realized that, all right, like, nutrition logically wasn't a very stable path. It's not a really well known or recognized. It's not as easy to get jobs. That's what I thought. With my reality at that time, and I thought, like, great, what, I want to start my own business, and whether maybe I can bring help people get healthy and incorporate nutrition in that would be great. So that was my thinking, like, great, it will help me if I can get this started in 3 years, and that was how long I kind of gave myself, because that was when I would finish my degree. If I have to get this started and running and successful in 3 years, so that I wouldn't have to worry about job security at the end of it. And then because of that, I think I attracted friends who were interested in nutrition and wellness and health. And I had some friends and we were really holistic. So not the conventional like nutritionists that we were like really holistic. And a few of my friends were doing holistic health coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got into coaching. And then I started, doing health coaching for a while and life coaching. And I also got, to have a coach and in that, and coaching support in my life. And I found that having that really assisted me in that very dark time in my life, me get my business up, and really strengthen my wealth consciousness, really help me delve into all of that. And I think coaching really transformed my life in that sense, and that's why I decided that it's like a gift. I feel like coaching is a gift, and whenever I get to share coaching with my clients, it's just like a win-win situation. So yeah.
I have so many questions
that's how I got into that
right now for you, but let's do that one at a time.
Okay, yeah.
Are you right now? You just graduated. What do you plan to do with your graduation? Your degree. What do you plan to do with it?
Nothing.
Okay, that's a great question. So as a mother, and I'm so I take a stand for education, but not education just for the sake of education, right? You know that about me. So and I'm a mother, I have 3 children, I have 3 kids, and I teach them unconventional education as well. So as someone, I didn't go through college, right? So I don't know how that works out, but I don't think that I'm done. So what do you feel as someone so young with education as well as a successful business? What are your thoughts about traditional education? Does one really need a traditional education, sort of like some alphabets, PhD, behind their name to be successful?
I don't think anyone needs conventional education. Obviously, it does. It has its own purpose, and it does have its own benefits, but I don't think that it's a requirement to be successful, really. It definitely has taught me a lot about interacting in groups and, other skills, maybe like public speaking that I got to practice in front of, my students or my peers. But ultimately, I I found that yes, it has taught me a few things, but the real world, like going into the field and whatever that is, if it's coaching, then getting your feet wet with like trying out to coach and things like that has really taught me so much more than anything that I could have learned in a classroom.
Sure, that's so.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
so if someone at your age right now who desires to start a business,
Mm-hmm.
what would your tips be for this person? I mean, at the end of the day, how did you start your business? Was it like really easy? Did you go through blood, sweat, and tears? How was it like for you? Because I know many people have this warped idea about having a business, like, oh, I can have free time and I can do whatever I want. But you and I know that being in business, it's actually not that, you know, well painted picture, right? We got to stay on schedule. We got to really work double hard to build our business right at the beginning, and then it sort of like tapers off. But still, you know, we are taught, right? Consistent income, you need consistent marketing. So
Definitely.
what was that? What were some challenges that you faced at the beginning? Did you feel like, oh my God, this is too tough, I'm gonna give up? So actually, which was more difficult, your education or your building your business?
I think what in some sense, I think education was a bit harder, especially towards the end, because I wasn't passionate about it anymore. I was, just doing it for the sake of completion. So at that phase, it was like just like a struggle to, yeah, get the assignments in, get, all the exams studied for, and like that. That was really quite a push for me. I definitely had to manage my own expectations in myself. But I think that I would say in the beginning, um, starting my own business was probably quite um, challenging as well, because I had to, like you say, manage my own time. I had to, you know, I don't know, like, but for myself, I feel like there were many times where I felt like, what, this, like this is difficult. It's not like as, like awesome or easy as it was, like you see people like, yeah, just like, taking off in style and things like that. And it wasn't like that. You had to put in effort, and you had to, like do what you say you were going to do, and you have to keep yourself accountable.
Did you feel a bit cheated? And when you dive into the business and like, hey, it's not like what other people say it is, did you feel a little bit cheated?
Uh, no, I mean, I always knew that it was going to be, like effort, but and you like time, energy, and money, and things like that. I always knew that I had to put that in order to succeed. But I felt like that was okay, because if not, I would have just been putting all of that in to build someone else's dream or fulfill someone else's dream in terms of being employed. So I was, when I kept reminding myself of like, yeah, like this is like, this is what is required of me for me to have that vision be fulfilled. That was, then I felt like, all right, like, like I'm gonna, like, I don't know, put my big girl pants on and just like, keep on keeping on. And then I think one of the challenges for me in the beginning, which I didn't really find that challenging, because my family always really valued investing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that for me, that was quite important as well for me to grow my business, was to invest in myself, to learn about, the business and structures and wealth consciousness, and, actually having a business coach who's done it before show me how. I think that was quite crucial in my success, that I had that kind of person in my life. And I think for some people it might be difficult, but for me it was quite easy, because I felt like, what, this is me investing in my future, and of course, like, I'm going to make it pay off by implementing all of it. Yeah.
So again, I have a few more questions.
That's great.
Oh, by the way, this is live. This is like no script. I think Jia Ni
Yeah.
both live and breathe not a non-scripted life, so we just go as it is. So you talked about
Definitely.
your family. So I want to ask, like, did your parents freak out when you told them you're going to start a business in the middle of trying to complete a degree? And did you actually thought of just, forget about the degree, I'm just going to do a full energy swing on my business. How did your parents react? I know there's two questions in
Yeah. Okay. And well, at the beginning, my parents were, I think they thought that it was just another one of my projects, like, yeah, like she'll get over this phase. My dad was very supportive. He always told me, like, one day you have to start your own business, like that's how you get successful. So I think in that sense, he's kind of like planted that seed in me that, one day I will start my own business. And yeah, so my dad was very supportive. My mom is more conventional, so I think she would be like, why don't you go back to be a doctor? Like, what are you doing? Things like that. So at first it was very difficult in terms of like, I'm trying to, start this business here, which is, as you would know, and I think a lot of your viewers know, is that like in itself, it's like a huge process energetically, and then not having that kind of support was also quite sad, but eventually I think I just decided that I have to do this for myself, and I have to show myself that, whether it succeeds or not, that I have given it like all of, everything.
Okay.
So I felt like I owed it to myself to do that. So eventually I got over that, like, oh, don't they see how great this can be, into like, what, I'm just going to focus on my future. And eventually it's going to be me that has to live with my decisions. So I felt like I owed it to myself to give it a go. So I think that was the first question. And the second question.
Well, I mean, you said about your mom not being supportive, and we get so much the worst and the best naysayers are actually not our friends. They're actually our parents sometimes. And I hear this so often, and as a grown adult, it's really amazing how we are wired and conditioned to still think that our parents have a big say over our decision making, and we don't trust ourselves. And when we come to decision making, we suddenly become this 16-year-old that we don't trust ourselves, like we have this parents, mom's or our dad's voice in our head. So it's really sad that our family members especially are not supporting and are not being supportive of our drives and our decision, right? So how did that make you feel, and how did you overcome, especially mom and daughters, and they have this huge relationship with the mother, right? We have this karmic tie, whatever you call it, with the mother-daughter relationship. So how did that make you feel, and how did you actually overcome those, I mean, to put it in a blunt way, the naysaying and the disagreement from your mom? I mean, you're so blessed that only you had to deal with only one parent. Some people have to deal with two, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Deal with like their fears. Basically, these are their fears, but it translated to like, hey, don't do this, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think even though it was just my mom, but I have a really like a big relationship with my mom. So not as much with my dad actually. Growing up, I was very close with my mom, so it was like everything she said was like gospel, and just like God's word, and I had to follow it. And she always knew better, right? Like things like that. So in the beginning, I think I was trying to prove to her, like I would, like try and I would do things out of this, from this energy of like I'll prove to you that I can do this. And then of course that it's always like, yeah, right, I can prove something, and then but eventually it's still from this place that it's like I'm not good enough, and that it just got really tiring. And I think at one point I had to really stop talking about it. So, even though like my business is such a huge deal in my life, I had to really just stop talking about it with my parents. And obviously they would keep asking like, how's the business? Like, what are you doing now? Like, have you, like gone to look for a real job now? Things like that. But I just had to like, actually just claim my power as a woman instead of, being a child in the relationship, and form boundaries and say like, look, I'm not available to talk about this. And just kind of have my own kind of like boundary protecting me around that. And I think in that process, I really grew up as well, from being a little girl and like yeah, I'll do whatever you say, into like what's really my truth here.
Yeah.
and so that I have my own sense of integrity, because I think when we don't, stand up for our truth, we feel like we don't have the integrity, and then that just um, erodes our self-esteem and our self-worth too. So I think like in that process also really helped me become my own person and become independent from my parents.
Okay, so I was gonna ask, like you said something about I'm not good enough, but I guess you kind of like answered that in that
Yeah.
conversation. But
Mm.
I think I'm not good enough is such a huge piece with a lot of people, especially with women, but men included.
Mhm.
So how did you specifically, what tools did you use any exercises, tools to overcome this I'm not good enough belief system?
Yeah, I think there are two ways. I like in my journey, I found like two processes really great and really effective. One was to, I would say, to look at where the wounding is from the little girl. So if that is, what you're feeling called to do.
Healing the inner child, yeah?
Yes. Yep, definitely healing the inner child. So whether, like just journeying back, right, like intuitively, or, through your, using your mind's eye to where you feel that, this happened. Like, where did you develop this belief that I'm not good enough, right? Maybe it was, usually if I find that it's in childhood, like where you kind of like something happened, might be very small, might be something that someone said, but you develop this belief that I'm not good enough,
Mm.
or whatever that belief is. So, and then I find that going back into that, right, like, and then understanding that, like it's just, this little girl who's really like confused, and had this huge like thing placed on her, which then she just took on, and kind of like whether like converse, having a like saying like, look, I'm a grown up now, and you don't have to have that belief anymore, and having a conversation, whether it's written or just like talking it out. um like I find that very like transformational for myself. Just healing that inner child through that way. And then the second one is, usually I find that it's just like a loop that maybe you've had this belief system for like, I don't know, 20 years, right? And it's just like playing as a loop now, and it's no longer like, it's not that you have to go back to heal something, it's just that it's a very unconscious process that's going on in your mind that is then creating your reality. I then find that just like writing down what that belief system is, and then like maybe burning it or doing some kind of energetic process, and then writing a new belief system, like this is my new story now. And every day actually like putting it in front of you, and just like either like talking it, like reading it out, but really like reading it, but also feeling it like in yourself, like like I am good enough, like I am worthy of all my desires, or whatever that would be.
How has this exercise transformed your relationship with your parents? Is your mom supportive now after, such a period of time and you're in business
Mhm.
as well? Is she pro Jia Ni now or still con?
I don't really know. I think she's like, yeah, like she's kind of came to this process of, I think, acceptance that I am going to do what I desire to do, or that I think she's come to a process of acceptance that like there is not as much control, or not as, it's more like not as much like emotional blackmail available, that I'm not available for that anymore.
Okay,
And
emotional
yeah.
blackmail. I want to talk about this because my mom does it to me all the time. And as being conscious entrepreneur, as you
Yeah.
develop, you actually can recognize it. So
Mm-hmm.
when you are child or you are beginning, in this personal development, I mean, we're building a conscious business, right? We're not building some unconscious business. So, and by definition of conscious entrepreneur, we are always working on our own emotions, being a better person, and then from that space, we attract bigger things into our lives. So, when you say by that definition, how does someone, if he or she is very new to this work, how do they recognize the emotional blackmail?
Mm-hmm. I would get the book Emotional Blackmail by, I think,
Literally
Susan Cain.
emotional blackmail.
Yeah, I think, like reading that book from cover to cover was like it was like lots of light bulbs just went off like in my mind, like, oh, this happens and that happens, and like, yeah. So that, I think for me, that was important for me to like identify when when blackmail happens, and like why it happens as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the book also has like some tools to help you, deal with it, that could be very helpful for that person. Yeah, for me, I think I think in general, I know that emotional blackmail is happening when I feel like I'm suddenly like, being put down or being put into a place where I don't feel empowered, or I have a choice to feel like to stand up for myself and feel empowered.
Did,
So
did
yeah.
consciously or unconsciously? Do you think your
Sorry.
parents know that they are emotionally blackmailing you?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Um,
I mean, do you
I
think?
think I think I would like to believe that it is a a very, like a very unconscious process, because I don't think that any parent would consciously do it to their children, right? I think it's maybe like out of a perception of like distorted love, like, I know better for you, so you should. And that's probably worked as well when you were a child, like you just gave into it because you needed protection, you felt like that was the right thing to do. And because of that, they also feel like, well, it's worked so far, so to get their way, so why not continue that? And then to a point, you just, you realize that you're an adult and you have to say, look, I like that's, I'm not available for that anymore.
So,
But I don't think that is conscious. Yeah.
so when did you realize that you were being emotionally blackmailed by your parents?
I think when I realized that I always had a fear, like, when I wanted to do something, I was actually like running the tape, like, oh, what would my parents think, or how would they respond, or kind of like I realized that I was living my life based on like what would they say, what would they potentially say, or how would they react when they found out. And then I realized that I wasn't being true to myself or being authentic, because I was, kind of, right, like not living the full expression of me. I think that was when I realized, probably when I started my business, like when how they say business is the biggest personal development course you could ever take. I think when I started my business and I knew that I wanted to do my own things and like, make certain investments, and I was, like thinking about things like that and wondering if, oh, what would they say, or what would they think? And when I told them, they would, respond poorly, and I would feel a bit, I would feel bad about it. That was when I realized, like, look, I have to have some kind of healthy, this is not healthy, and I had to heal this part as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's so great. So, in as a woman, when our relationship sort of like crumbles, then our business sort of like, it sabotages our business. So people think like, hey, and then we are women, right? We're not men, we can compartmentalize. Did you were you able to put two and two together when you had problems with your parents? How was your business?
I think maybe for the most part, I was geographically like quite, separated. Or there was like an ocean in between us, so that helped. Like having a physical barrier or less contact. Yeah, that kind of helped, but obviously like there's like the internet, like technology, like you and I today, so there was still contact, but having that physical barrier definitely helped like me separate my who I am versus like the idea of who I should be.
Mm-hmm.
That helped. But I think, yes, definitely, like obviously I think what helped was having a coach. So my coach would, when I was like not like I was having like, I think one of the biggest pieces for me was having like an income ceiling in my business, and I would, like every month I would just like reach that, and then through coaching I realized that it was because I felt like I could never make more money, because I was, at that point, and I felt like I couldn't make more money than my parents a month, or I shouldn't, or that, like who am I to do that at this young age when they've, done it for, worked in corporate for 20 years or something. And then So yeah, I felt like it's definitely related, and it's great. I find that in a way because once you heal a piece here, like the business also like expands, and there are more things that it kind of expands quite miraculously because you heal this emotional piece. Like then something else opens up because there's this huge space that opens up for more money, more clients, or more of what you want.
It's like that emotional block, right? There's this
Yeah.
emotional, like there's a drain, and then if
Mm-hmm.
it chokes, the water cannot flow through. So I think a lot of people don't see that. They don't put two and two together. But you and I know better. Like, it hurt when you want your business to flow nicely, attract higher paying clients and awesome clients, then all areas of your life needs to be sorted. It may not have to be sorted right now, but you have
Yeah.
to have the emotional maturity to actually work on it, see it eye to eye, and not run away, isn't it? To have that clear energy.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the next thing
Yeah.
I want to ask you is, how do you stay focused on your purpose? I mean, like your purpose obviously is living through your business and helping others.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you actually stay focused at that point? I mean, different phases, right? At the time it was your parents, and then we kind of like talked about it, you worked on it. So, and then right now with your studies and, relationship and everything else, how do you actually stay focused, especially when, months like, what if I don't get enough clients and, I'm not getting enough income right now? So how do you actually stay focused? Were there times of like, okay, I want to give up because of these times?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I mean, I think like yeah, when things are happening in this area in my life, maybe like an emotional drain here. I'm sort of the person who likes to settle things like quickly. Like not go to sleep like having something unresolved. So whenever there was something that I could resolve, maybe in relationships or within myself, I would like just go quite extreme. Like I think I'm a bit of an extremist in that sense. Like I would then like just like do as much as I can to solve like whatever emotional issues that were coming up. But I think at the like I still like every morning I ask myself like what do I require to do today for me to feel that I have moved forward, or I have that my future self will thank me for. And you just, like sometimes it's like yeah, make sure like these marketing copies get sent out, like sometimes things like that, and I make sure there's one thing that I get, that's the one thing that I get done.
Okay.
Yeah, so I always ask myself, I guess, what's the one thing I can do today to move my business forward and towards my desires. So I make sure I get that done, and then usually there's a list of to-dos that I also kind of work on.
Great. Okay. So you talked about having a coach many times. So let's talk about it. So do you think you are able to reach this level of success in such a short period of time if you didn't have a coach?
No, no. I'm very clear on that. No, I don't think that I would be where I am, or like kind of collapse the timeline if I didn't have a coach who was, like way above, like steps like that were, before me, and I have gone through that and have like that I can actually use as a sounding board to kind of study as well, to see how do they think, how would they respond to this situation, and things like that, and kind of actually, model after them, and learn how to, live in a high frequency or more conscious way of living. Yeah.
So, I mean, at the age of 18, 19, you decided you needed a coach. So,
Yeah.
who gave you that thought that, hey, I needed a coach?
Um. I.
Like nobody wakes up when I used to do relationship coaching. Nobody wakes up, hey, I need a coach. I need a relationship coach. I need a love coach. No woman would wake up in the middle of the night and then next day immediately decide, hey, I need a coach, right? So, and when we are searching for somebody to learn from and to hire, we actually have a few and then we narrow it down, right? So, but before this process even started, how did you have the idea that, I need a coach?
Well, I think partly like I was studying coaching, so you know, that I think that helped for me to kind of understand, right? Like athletes have coaches, you know, other people, other successful people have, you know, coaches in areas that they want to develop in, right? So maybe they want to work on relationships, but they've got finances down, so they have a relationship coach. You know, like things like that. Doesn't have to be like a coach in every area of their life, just one that they maybe feel that they want to, you know, shorten the timeline and move much more forward in. So I think that helped me like kind of understand that, yeah, you know, like you know, it's like, yeah, maybe I have to invest in myself so that I can just move much more forward. Obviously, I was reading like books, and I was, you know, like just consuming. I was at this phase where I was a sponge, and I was just like consuming everything that I could get my hands on, you know, whether it was like books or preview calls or like courses and things like that, that I felt like that I needed to brush up on, or I needed to actually learn about. I was, you know, I think I got to a point where I was just doing lots of courses as well. And then at one point I realized, look, I feel like I'm at this stage right now where I desire to have that one-on-one, like high-level support, where I could just bounce ideas off someone and, you know, kind of talk to them and see what they think about things, because, you know, there's only so much you can, you know, so much support you can have, like not much through books, I guess, but like in courses and things like that, it's not that high level support that you can get. So yeah, I think that it was a journey. Like it was a journey. I didn't just wake up one day and say, okay, I need a coach now. But you know, I was doing courses, and then I was, you know, yeah, to a point where I felt that, all right, like if I'm serious about this, and then I have to, you know, like show that, you know, through my actions, whether it's investing or, you know, like taking it up to the next level, which, you know, would also involve investing, that I put it out that I am serious about the business. Yeah.
So what's your process in selecting the right coach for you?
Mm-hmm. I think mostly, like maybe 99% for me is very like intuitive, maybe 1% logical. um, so I would, you know, I kind of like look at, you know, different coaches that are out there that usually, you know, I've had, you know, some level of contact, maybe through like a course or some of their materials, or I've been following them, you know, on their list or things like that. So, you know, I've, you know, been reading their newsletters. So I find that through that, I already have a good idea, maybe like, you know, a handful of coaches, you know, maybe less than 5 that you know, I really, really enjoy. And then I look at their process. So like, how do they do what they do? Like, is it like really masculine and like just do everything that you can, or more feminine? And you know, like what have they created in their life as well? So
Fair enough.
is it what I want, right? Is that what I want? And is that in alignment with what I desire to create for myself? I think that's quite important. And then and then maybe like their values. So like, what do they value? Or what does their brand say that they value?
Okay.
And if that's in alignment with me, and then I think from there I have quite a good idea, you know, you know, which coach is the right coach for me, and then I just have to make it happen.
I think like both of us are Asian, and I think the concept of coaching, it's
Uh-huh.
rather new in Asia, but is so developed in like in America and Australia, right? So, you know, typically when someone decides to hire a coach, there's a lot of fear, like what if it doesn't work, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so afraid of investing, like, you know, such a huge sum of money and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts about this? I mean, to someone out there who I'm not sure if I need to invest. I can do it all on my own. I mean, I have these thoughts as well. Like, I could do it all on myself. You know, like, oh gosh, just read the book and just go freaking do it, right? So why do I need a coach? I think these are very common thoughts. Like even I think for you and I'm sure we have these thoughts, we entertain these thoughts, especially when we go to the next level, a higher level of investment out of our comfort zone. We used to, you know, we have comfortable in investing in this amount of money, and now we want up level. So it's like people will be thinking, why do I need to invest in that amount of money? Why,
Yeah.
you know, do I even need to invest? Why can't it be free? What if my husband says no? What if my parents says no? How do you, what are your thoughts about this?
Hmm. Um, I think like before you entertain the thoughts of like, what will others say or think, right? Like I think you have to get clear for yourself on, like, is this the right decision? And have I made it like a non-negotiable? That I like, and maybe ask yourself like, will this coaching or this, whatever, help you in your next level? And then if it's a clear
When
yes.
people actually have that fear investing in themselves,
Mm,
they have no qualms
yeah.
about buying a branded handbag. They have no qualms about buying a designer dress. They have no qualms about taking themselves to a Paris holiday. But when it comes to investing in themselves in a coaching or whatever, they freak out,
Mm,
right? And I think the
yeah.
question all the time is, how do I know this will work for me?
Right. Right. Okay. Um, I think we've had this discussion before, and I will, like I think you said something that really has stayed with me, so I'm just going to share that. And you, and I think that you said like, are you going to allow it not work, right? And I remember I said like, no, of course not. Like, and then are you going to do whatever it takes to make sure that it works? And I was like, yeah, like totally. So I think at that point, if you are that certain, I don't think you can get any more certain than that. Like if you can, say that with conviction that yes, I'm going to make it work no matter what. And and then you've just got. I mean, the fears are always going to be there. And you've just got to really like, in a sense, like trust yourself enough to make the leap of faith. And I think at the end of the day, like it. That just know that it's like you'll make it back, like like that money you'll make it back. And like you'll do no matter what it takes to do that.
Do you
I
feel
think, yeah.
people use money as an excuse not to do it? Like, I want to hire
Mhm.
this person. I want that reason. Whenever I do seminars and I ask the people who wants to make 10,000, they'll all raise their hand, right? And then who are halfway there, and then like slowly the hand comes down, and then who knows how to make 10K, and like, and then more hands come down, and it's shocking to see that a lot of people want that result, but they're not
Mhm.
do whatever it takes to get there. So, do you have
Mhm.
any advice for people like, what if they don't have the money yet? You know,
Mhm.
or some maybe do have the money, but they refuse to invest. What would you say to someone to help them cross over this barrier of coaching?
Mhm. um I think that, hmm, you've got to come to like just to know that, like, have you ever, like, let's say like it's not coaching, but I think for women, like, we're all very very powerful, even though if we might not know. And like just ask yourself, like, every time that you've made a decision that's going to happen, whether it's like a handbag on your hand, like, whatever that is, like, if you've made a decision that you're gonna have that no matter what, you're gonna do whatever it takes, like, have you ever not succeeded?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you get the answer that no, actually, like, every time I've like gone all out, like said yes, like maybe gone for it, like my hair was on fire, or like like just take no for an answer, like you've always got what you wanted or what you desired at the end. So I think, like, if you can just reconnect with that power, like how powerful you are, and then just ask yourself, like, are you going, you're like, is this is the same, right? Like having a business, is it like, have you decided that you're going for it no matter what, and that you're going to make this work no matter what, and you're not just in it for like fun, but this is something that you're going to create. It's your empire. It's your, it's yours. It's your brand. Then, like, if the answer is like yes, like yes, totally. Then, I think, I don't think you can get any clearer than that. I think then after that, you just got to like, I don't know, put in your details and like just you're gonna have fear, but you just have to like, whether it's make the deposit, maybe, if you don't have the full payment, like, sometimes it's that hurdle where that you've got to cross for you to like get to the vision.
Yeah. So I think, this has been such a wonderful conversation that you actually will inspire a lot of younger people to go after it like their hair is on fire. And
Thank
so,
you.
what are your top 3 strategies for someone, say, who's still sitting on the fence, not sure if they quit their corporate job, but obviously you didn't have a job, but just after it, and and especially what tips do you have when things don't go right as planned? How do you stay focused? What are the top 3 strategies and tips you have for the people out there?
I think, well, firstly, like when things don't go as planned, I always say, like, when I write my intentions, so I'm really big on intentions. I always write like what's my intention. I always set an intention for what I desire the outcome to be. And at the end of every intention, I always write down, just to remind myself, because it's gonna happen anyway, that this or something even better.
Yeah.
For the highest good of all concerns. So when things don't go as planned, I just kind of tune in and say, like, what's better. Like, what's better for me that is out there. And then I just continue taking, inspired action, and like, just keep going through. It's like, you're committed to this path. You're not gonna like, quit halfway. And then I think other tips would be that this is your life, that like however long you have left, so like you just have to ask yourself, like, if you're not doing, and it's, I think, what's the quote, like, that insanity is like when you do something for again and again expecting a different result.
Awesome. So I was just suddenly thinking of what you were saying about going after it, like you make it happen, like women who have a vision and make the decision to go after the bag, and they don't have enough, they will starve and diet, right? So basically that is going after it no matter what. I know there's much more we can learn from you, but we have limited time. And tell us where we can find you and learn more about your good strategies and your mindset. Where can we find you?
You can come over to my website at jianiteo.com, and I'm sure everything is on that website. You can learn more about me, join the mailing list where I'll share tips where you sometimes don't share anywhere else. So come over to the website, and then obviously, like, there are other social media links over there as well that you can come say hi on.
Awesome. So you want to tell us specifically who you desire to work with?
What's the question?
So can you tell us who specifically do you work with? Like women entrepreneurs, men? Who specifically do you work with? Who are your ideal clients?
Yeah, great. So my ideal clients, or the clients that I work with, are new and aspiring coaches, and also really multi-passionate women entrepreneurs that are ready to take it to the next level and to make a minimum of $5,000 every month, doing what they love, living life on their own terms, and living a life without sacrifice as well. So those are my clients.
Awesome, so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us, or joining me on this Saturday beautiful afternoon. Finally, it's not raining in Singapore. And I would look forward to speaking with you real soon. And of course, if you desire to check out Jia Ni, she's given a website, jianiteo.com. Do visit her and learn more from her. Remember, she's only 22.
Thank you. Yeah, and if I can do it, like, you can too.
Like what Yan says, if Yan can cook, so can you.
Perfect. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.